Hi, folks. I'm Walt Pilcher, and I'm the author of On Shallowed Ground. I can give you the full title. It's called On Shallowed Ground, Dr. Barker's Scientific Metamorphical Prostate Health Formula and Other Stories, Poems, Comedy, and Dark Matter from the Center of the Universe. Thought we'd spend a few minutes today talking about the question I always get, which is, well, why should I buy this book? Well, for one thing, it's cheap, especially if you get the e version of it. So I think you could afford that at least. The other reason is it's a really, really good book. It's got a lot of great stuff in it. For example, one of the endorsements says Walt Pilcher's stories, poems, and songs are literary depth charges. You'll explode with laughter when you least expect it. Always fun and often profound. You'll be glad you didn't skip school the day they taught reading. Well, today I thought we might get into the book by, first of all, telling you a little bit about what the overriding spirit of the book is. You see, the parody in this book starts with Moses coming down from the mountain, not with two tablets with commandments from God, but with one tablet containing the 11th commandment, which is very clearly outlined here. Thou shalt not take thyself too seriously. Now, that's the tone of the book. It's the tone of almost everything I write. But let's go from there. We have a foreword in this book by the very well known Samuel Clemens, and I'd like to read that to you right now. I only knew Walt Pilcher about 5 minutes before he invited me into his man cave and showed me his collection of margarita recipes from around the world. Someday I'm going to write a book about these, he said. I'm going to call it Margarita Recipes from Around the World. It will have pictures and everything. It's a big collection. Some are on 3x5 cards, some torn out of magazines, some scribbled on paper napkins, and a lot of them are on rough scraps of paper with peculiar looking stains. All have dates and the names of restaurants, towns, and countries from as far away as Canada. Have you ever been to any of these places? I asked. You mean besides La Tarjeta Verde Mexican restaurant up the street here? Well, yeah, I guess. Of course not, Walt answered, sounding a little irritated. Although I did have lunch in Tijuana once, but I forgot to order a margarita. Anyhow, I can get what I need from the internet. As far as I know, Walt hasn't written that book yet, but he did write this one, which I promised to read as soon as I have time. He assures me it's very good and that I will enjoy it. He says it has lots of interesting stuff in it, like funny stories and poems and things, but not the sappy kind of poems I don't like. I believe him. He's never lied to me before, so there's no reason to think he would start now. That's why I can honestly recommend this book to you. And I've known most of you even less than 5 minutes. Apparently, that is how things work in this modern age of the internet and electronical relationships and experiences, at least according to my son Mark and my grandchildren, who have also promised to read this book when they have time, probably on their iPhones between texting and tweeties or whatever they call it. I was as surprised as anyone when Walt asked me to write this forward. I'm happy to do it because he's probably going to turn out to be a good customer. However, I think he is mistaking me for some famous writer or other. I don't know why, but it wouldn't be the first time. Really, I only came to fix his toilet. Samuel L. Clemens, Clemens and Sons Plumbing Incorporated, serving the Triad area since 1986. There's a phone number and a website, and it's his motto, flushing your pain right down the drain. Well, what a better introduction could you have to a book than that? I thought what we would do today maybe was give you a little taste of what's in the book by taking a walk through the table of contents. Now, I don't think any writer has ever done this before. Probably it's a first. So let's take a walk through the table of contents here. We've already read the foreword by Samuel Clemens. There's an introduction. There's a prologue, and then there's a section called "Stories and Poems You'll Wish You'd Written." So see, it's sort of an interactive book already, getting you involved. Life After is a good story. Dr. Barker's Scientific Metamorphical Prostate Health Formula is the title story. It's a literally lighthearted look at prostates, if you can imagine that. Next is a medical cautionary tale in verse, and it's from a true event. The next story is How to Attract a Man. We have here two former college friends talking it over. An old score is a story where you get to select the surprise ending. Self-rising bridges, nevermore. Don't have to tell you about those. Need you to get in and read them. Then we come to a poem called Family Tree Leaves. Now, this is one of those situations where a poem turns into a song, and I'd like to play for you now the chorus of Family Tree Leaves.
Well, my family tree leaves a lot to be desired. My great-grandpa was not too pleased with the progeny he sired. Each offspring's life experience worse than the one before. It's got short branches on its trunk, its roots in shifting sands are sunk. This tree has borne no fruit, but it's got nuts galore.
Did you enjoy that? I thought it was pretty good myself. Now, the next section is called Day of the Science Fiction Thing. We have science fiction sort of stuff involved in this. The first story is called Blanket Coverage. Two astronauts have their dreams come true when they're captured by aliens. Lament to the Expectant Parent. You'll see that one for yourself. The Meeting at the Center of the Universe, a very unique take on that concept. Alien for Dinner, a wonderful little poem about how an hors d'oeuvre saved the Earth. The next one is When Superheroes Learn to Fly. The premise here is, what if young Clark Kent was just a bratty kid who couldn't do anything and his father had to teach him? The Prophecy Booth, predicting the future by remembering the past, based on an actual quotation from Winston Churchill. Paleontology, a very interesting poem. And then When Superheroes Learn to Fly, Part 2, a study in clarihues, I believe it's called. You'll enjoy it. The next section is called Day of the Philosophy Thing, and the first item in that section is a philosophical treatise called Differential Overview of Bounds Within the Religion of the Analytic, or Categorically Metaphysical. Let me read you a paragraph from that to give you just a taste of what that's about. This philosophical treatise will of course seem to some as if it is not all that which one might expect from the initiation of such a work under the conditions as yet unspecified by the conscience. Nevertheless, it is hoped that the work will not be unduly received or critically signified. The dichotomy which exists after the fact of other considerations should not impair categorical apprehensions suggested by possible further revisions of present attitudes. Whenever one sets out to make the ensuing plausible juxtapositions, this problem and its evident variations are always in view. Well, you can see that this is going to be very deep and very detailed, and you're going to want to get heavily into it. It's also where we learned the very important fact that history is rapidly becoming a thing of the past. So moving right along, we have a poem called The Religion Student. Oh, you'll like that one very much. And then one of my favorites, these are all my favorites, what can I say? But this one is called Sunrise Service. Let me read that one to you, because we have the Moses references right up at the beginning, and here we follow through with this thread in Sunrise Service. In this photo, Pastor Will is reading his sermon to those of us in his congregation who had managed to get up early enough to attend the outdoor sunrise service. It was March and still very cold, so everyone had to bundle up, except Pastor Will, who felt that wearing an overcoat over his fine black suit would somehow diminish his authority. For him, The suit was like the clerical robes our denomination used to favor for ministers until they were abandoned in a nod to modernity and relevance, whatever that means. At least he allowed the choir to wear jackets. We'd been standing there on the church lawn a long time already, furtively stamping our feet to keep the circulation going. The big problem was that even though it was billed as the sunrise service, the sun was showing no sign of cooperating. In fact, it was beginning to snow. Knowing Pastor Will, I'll bet he was thinking, if Moses could part the Red Sea, why can't I make the sun come up this morning of all mornings? I was just wishing he would let his people go. Well, next we have a number of poems, beginning poem paradise. Where do poems go to die? Find out by reading that one. Promise Fields, Nevermore, Plethora. Don't need to talk to you about all of those. Have to leave a few things for you to find out on your own. The next section is called Help from the Government. Is it possible? Wow. We have first in that section, the National Bureau of Mellow Standards. What if all official weights and measures were based on how we really talk? Comes with recipes too. You'll like it. We have a poem called Smoke. It's actually a sonnet. See, I know my poetry. Bob from Bep. Now, this is a scary one, although funny. It's Big Brother watching you, but who's watching Big Brother? Small talk. The Ballad of Old John Smith. Yes, yes. A very surprising but sad story, but funny. The County Library. You'll really, really like that one too. It's been made into a movie, I understand. Then there's I Gotta Be You, the lighter side of identity theft. Deface of Fortune, interesting poem. And then Dr. Watson Calls 911. Wow. We move next to a section called Round Robin, a plethora of writers disagreeing on a storyline. This is actually a story that's written by a number of separate authors, each of which is supposed to be following some kind of a thread established by the previous author as he writes the particular chapter he was assigned. You can imagine how far such a thing can go awry, and it does, and it's fun. We have this other group of poems and stories, more indigestion and fast foods. That's about Lone Rangers, a restaurant chain with many restaurants, but they're all in one place. Hi-Yo Silver Burgers. Good Humor Incorporated. Let's has its local assets frozen. You can read about that. Read about the Winter Olympics in a short poem. Hercules in Dutch. Yes. A takeoff on the Hercule Poirot stories. Hot Weather, a wonderful song. And Hippies Revolting, and The Punks Club, another favorite. Can you write a whole short story using only text abbreviations? Yes. IMHO and LOL. The Lost Episode, well, that's back from the round robin, actually. The people that were counting up the number of chapters apparently couldn't keep track and they lost one. But we found it before the end of the book, and here it is. We sort of end with this section called Jolly Songs to Send You on Your Way. And the first one is called, let me put my hat on first. Quito, the Panama Hat Song. Let's play it now.
I took a little journey down to Panama for to buy a hat made out of golden straw. But in my plan there was a little flaw when I went to Panama and tried to buy a Panama hat. I found a perfect fit in a village store, but the label said the hat was made in Ecuador. Said to the man, hey, por favor, senor, 'cause I didn't know that Ecuador, it makes the Panama hat. Now Quito, Quito is where I want to go. Quito, Quito at latitude 0. Quito, Quito, that's where it's at. 'Cause Ecuador is where they make the Panama hat. Now Panama is really very warm and nice. There's a big canal and frosty beer on ice. But Ecuador is my advice. Go a little more south and you will find the Panama hat. So go to Ecuador and it will be alright. They got pretty girls and the sun so bright. Gonna need a hat to face the noonday light. So it's good that Ecuador is where they make the Panama hat. Now Quito, Quito is where I want to go. Quito, Quito, they take it nice and slow. Quito, Quito, that's where it's at. 'Cause Ecuador is where they make the Panama hat. Panama hat has style and fame, and Ecuador hat would not sound the same. So I guess it's okay that they stole the name from Quito, Quito, that's where I want to go. Quito, Quito, they have the sweet mango. Quito, Quito, that's where it's at. 'Cause Ecuador is where they make the Panama hat. I thought Panama was where they make the hat, but go to the source now, you know better than that. 'Cause Ecuador is where they make the Panama hat. You know Ecuador is where they make the Panama hat. Ecuador.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. Of course, the steel drums are not in the book, but you can imagine them as you read through the lyrics. The next song is The Bellyful Whale. Interesting concept. Whiskey Before Breakfast, which is actually a traditional Irish tune, but we've written some lyrics that we think will be quite entertaining. Fallen and Can't Get Up. Ah, yes. A drinking song if ever there was one. Well, and then finally, we have, as far as songs are concerned, what we call the potato song. And here it is.
I'd plant me some potatoes if only I'd a hoe. I'd have a little garden and plant them row by row. I'd pray for rain and sunshine and hope the buggers grow. I'm Irish, yes, and it'd do me best if only I'd a hoe. I'd plant me some potatoes if only I'd a hoe. I'd have a little garden and plant them row by row. I'd pray for rain and sunshine and hope the buggers grow. I'm Irish, yes, and it'd do me best if only I'd a hoe. I'd plant me some potatoes if only Idaho. I'd have a little garden and plant them row by row. I'd pray for rain and sunshine and hope the buggers grow. I'm Irish, yes, and I do me best if only Idaho. I'm Irish, yes, and I do me best if only Idaho.
We hope you enjoyed that one as well. There's an epilogue and there's a section about the author. But the main thing is, we hope you've enjoyed this little walk through the table of contents and that you'll seriously consider picking up the book because it's really good and you're really going to enjoy it. So long for now, and thanks for watching.